It is tempting, but the same thing. It's like, you know, if you just make a decision that you want to argue with something, you argue with it. But the fact is, more people get hurt in hockey every day. More people get hurt in football every day. More people probably get hurt in tennis than hurt in MMA.
There are stats, and Dana White was quoting all kinds of stats about injuries and that. And reality is, I think it was like one person in the last decade was killed in MMA fighting in like a big, big sanction kind of stuff in the world. Yeah. And then meanwhile in soccer, you know, which obviously is well played and an awesome sport, but like the deaths are pretty high, and we're talking like kids were getting killed and so on. But anyway, I think we're done with this subject because you know that dead horse is coming.
But I just find it interesting that Marc-Andre goes and promotes this show in Winnipeg. It's sold out. Between 2,000 and 3,000 people. It's a great show. Does a lot of things for the city of Winnipeg. And then, some politician steps up and wants to shit on it. I think that's bullshit, and I think you guys handled it really, really well and really classy out there in Winnipeg. And it's good to see.
Hey, Marc-Andre.
Thank you.
Have you been floating the video of all that stuff around? You know, you got video of the fights and stuff. Have you been floating that around?
Oh, no.
Good for you.
Yeah.
No, we've been keeping that under close wraps. Some of the media took illegal video of it, and they have that floating around, but we've stayed classy, and we didn't want to glamorize any of the injuries that happened on our show. We did Louis well and didn't want to profit off that in any way.
One thing that should be said is for anyone who's a fan of the sport, I was there, and these two guys put on an incredible show, and they fought for 3 rounds, a bloody and back and forth battle with two guys who love what they were doing and did it extremely well at a high level. And the ref did a great job. He looked to consider stopping the fight, but every time he did, the injured guy came back and he fought really hard, and he put on a great show. A young 18-year-old, both of them put on a great show, and I'm glad that the guy is going to be fine, and everybody's excited to hear that he's in good shape. But for anyone in the crowd, that was an incredible performance both those guys put on, and the CFC in general was a great show. Anyone about 7 days from now. Sometime late February. Maybe Marc-Andre will know, but you're going to be able to see it on the Fight Network here in Canada. When is it going to air? Do you know, Marc-Andre?
I'm not 100% sure. We're still figuring that out. We had to make modifications to pulling that fight and whatnot. Right. Once it's ready for them right away, and I think they're going to use it fairly soon after, but I couldn't tell you for sure.
So late February, early March is safe to say. But yeah, a great night of fights, and
for sure.
And I was happy to be part of it. It was amazing.
All right, well, let's move on to another quick subject. We got to try and jam through a few more real quick because we promised to kind of cover off a bunch of stuff.
And mostly we talked about Joe getting drunk.
Right, we've kind of covered nothing. So let's move on to the new Vaseline rule. So the dead horse gets dragged back in. Obviously, the GSP Penn fight's been talked about to death.
To death, yeah.
But
today,
there's new information. So the new information is that there's a new Vaseline rule. Do you want to bring us up to speed, Marc-Andre, on that?
Is he there?
Sure. I guess there was some between rounds that the cornerman had applied to the back of his GSP's back on purpose or not. Who knows? It kind of reminds me of a hockey rule where if your stick's oversized and you get caught, you get a penalty, but the stick was never used. The commission caught it. It got wiped off before it ever happened. And through that, a good process was figured out that now only the UFC one's administering it.
Hey, he just... Okay, Marc-Andre just cut out. So
wow, technology is brutal.
That's right. He somehow lost his connection. So
that's Penn's management.
That's right. Yeah, it was BJ Penn cutting in and cutting off the signal. So I think he's back in a sec, but let me just try and give it because he was cutting in and out through some of that. The new rule, basically, I think, as I understand it, is that you're allowed 2 cornermen in for each guy.
You can have 3 in total, but only 2 may enter the cage.
Right, 2 may enter the cage, and then if you need a cut man, one guy's got to get out and the other guy's got to come in.
Unless one of the men in the ring is already the cut man, but usually that wouldn't be the case.
Right, you'd have 2 cornermen and a cut man waiting outside.
Yeah, and then one of your cornermen would leave, and the cut man would take his place.
Right. Now, and then how does this address the issue, though? Is this just so that way it's
a little easier to watch?
It's easier to watch? There's less guys slamming Vaseline on somebody?
I mean, the issue is for most people, I mean, first of all, we'll talk about it in a second. Did a little bit of Vaseline make any difference on BJ Penn at all? The statistics say no.
Okay, can I just quickly quote the statistics? Sure. Marc-Andre, are you back with us right now?
I think so.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I see you now. Okay, welcome back. So let's just quote the fight stats, because I know the Penn camp was, bragging about how this Vaseline made a significant difference. So let's see what the significant difference was. I would think Vaseline would maybe account for maybe like 5-10%. I mean, maybe, I don't know. Like that's like, I'm thinking kind of high. But anyway, here, strikes landed. Penn 47, GSP 234.
Yeah, but I mean, let's say there was no Vaseline. Penn could have landed, 1,000.
Totally.
Yeah.
That's so 100% possible if it was a 75-round fight and GSP was sleeping.
Right.
And then strikes attempted, Penn 100, GSP 345. Yeah. And just by the way, I'm not saying Penn's a slouch. He's like one of the top pound-for-pound fighters.
Incredible.
I just think that the last time they fought, they were pretty evenly matched. This time, GSP, obviously, he's improved significantly, and Penn, he hasn't.
Interestingly,
I mean, obviously, although he did improve on his cardio some.
Interestingly,
but,
I would wonder how many fights...
Zip it. Strike percentage. Just a second, then you can go ahead. I got to get these stats out.
Okay.
We're running out of time,
dude.
Go to it. Strike percentage, 47% Penn, 68% GSP. Then takedowns. Oh, no, strikes landed in round 4. 4 strikes landed by Penn, 95 for GSP. Totally making the Vaseline an issue. And then takedowns, 0 for Penn, 3 for GSP. Dominant positions, 0 for Penn, 5 for GSP. I don't think Vaseline was really the problem. But, hey, it happened. Okay? Obviously, GSP saying he wasn't aware of it. I think he's a pretty straightforward stand-up kind of guy. And then and his camp is saying that it wasn't intentional. At this point, based on the numbers...
It doesn't matter.
Who gives a shit? Because it was a landslide. It was like such a disproportionately won fight. So, but the new rule, I think, if it's going to be able to provide some clarity, and then also there's a little bit of controversy around it, so that way anybody attempts to do it right away, I mean, they're going to get punched from the system. Then away you go. I have a feeling that nobody's going to get touched in the GSP camp, and the reason why is because. Let me just run over to some of these numbers here if I've got them handy. Yeah, there we go. UFC 94, the live gate, number 6 all-time in UFC history, which is 4.3 million, with approximately 1.3 million pay-per-view buys, which is around 50. Yeah, sick money. $59 million in pay-per-view buys. That's not including the extra $10 for the people that shockingly have HD at home. And then you've also got GSP has 3 of the top 6 all-time gates. Which also means ridiculous pay-per-view buys. So no one's touching any of his shit. They're going to keep him locked up. And anyway, there was some initial talk about him fighting Penn again, and that's not going to happen. No. He's fighting who?
Thiago Alves.
Alves, right. And Alves actually could be a good fight. He was just on Inside MMA this week. And he walks around at 200, 205. Big. He's going to cut down to 170. He's a huge dude.
He's big. He can knock you out with one punch.
Right. He's a pretty good fight for GSP.
Yeah. I mean, GSP should, if they fought 10 times, GSP would win 8 or 9 of them. Okay. Realistically, he would. But Thiago Alves can knock you out with one punch. He's big and he's powerful, and he can hurt you. And the thing with MMA, as cliche as it is anything can happen. And when somebody has the ability to end a fight at any time, that's always a more interesting fight. Because I don't want to see GSP fight BJ Penn again, because the same thing will happen again. BJ Penn can't really just suddenly knock out
Well,
GSP.
He's not going to get 75% better, which is pretty much what's going to have to happen. We've been ignoring Marc-Andre. So, Marc-Andre, here's the next question for you. MFC is coming up. It's this Friday.
Yeah, this Friday.
MFC is this Friday. It's going to be on HDNet, right? Live?
You're going to be there, right, Marc-Andre?
You're going to be there. Are there any fights? Are there any fights that stand out to you that you think this is a great matchup? This is what I want to see. What's up with that?
I think in general the whole card stands out. MFC and TKO have had a battle for years that was kind of doing their own thing, but trying to vie for the top position in the country. TKO kind of fell apart last year, and MFC is really stepping it up, where they were probably already in #1 spot just by virtue, but they're not just sitting back. They're getting a lot of Ultimate Fighter. They're getting guys like Rory Singer, Solomon Hutcherson, Ryan Ford's fighting on the card, David Heath versus Roger Hollett, top up-and-comer Simon Marini. So they're pulling out all the stops, and they've got a great card. And yeah, I'm definitely gonna have to be there to check that one out.
When I started seeing them post this card on the internet, I was floored. Like, it looks like one of the best cards that's ever been put on in Canada.